Philip. I'm the CEO and founder of Biscuit. We're going to have a look at Core Wireless Warehouse. If you're looking for the app on the Play Store, it's under Epicor Kinetic Warehouse. What is it? It's used by over 1,300 companies across 40 countries, and it basically puts the power of Kinetic in your hands. It's a first-class modern Android app. Your warehouse and shop floor staff will benefit from the easy-to-use mobile interface. It's available in minutes via the Play Store download. So download it from the Play Store, plug in the license key, plug in server URL, and you can be processing transactions literally in 2 minutes. It streamlines workflows for rapid and precise scanning, which minimizes transaction processing time, enhances accuracy, and decreases errors, which results in increased operational efficiencies and significant cost savings across the organization. I can specify the company, the site, workstation if I choose to, and enter my employee ID. Log in. Now at any point in time while I'm in the app, I can just tap on the little person icon up the top here and go to the employee config, which will give me the opportunity to change the company or to change the site. Now this is the home screen. I've just got a few favorites loaded and I've got my production feed. So it's showing me that I'm currently clocked on to a job operation. The first thing I want to do is our new version 5, which we released only a few weeks back. One of the main changes in that was what we refer to as settings scope. So in the application, there's a whole lot of settings. I think it's something in excess of 130 settings now. Out of the box, the application works. What the settings basically do is it changes the behavior of the way the app works. So they're like preferences. We're just going to have a look at a couple of them. Now, if we just go into, let's go into issues and returns settings. So this is the extent of the settings. This is just in issues and returns. All right, now I've got a few of these enabled for the demo today. But the big change in the settings, if I just have a look at this one here, that I've got enabled to prevent overpicking. You can see that it's telling me that it's controlled by company, which is historically what the app's always done. You've been able to set these settings, but it controls the whole company. Now I've got a little edit button and I can click on the edit button and I can choose to control the settings at a site level. If I've got multiple sites, so I can turn some sites on and some sites off. I can choose to configure the settings at a warehouse team level. So I could turn it on for a particular team and off. Now there is an option if you don't belong to a team to be able to configure it for anybody who's not assigned to a team, if you want to configure it at a team level, being this one here. Or I can choose to configure it at an employee level. Now there's only seeing one option because that's my setting for the user that I'm logged in as. So all of these settings are visible to the user, but if they're not an Epicor Security Manager, they're effectively grayed out. So they can see the setting, they can see what it's set to, but they can't change it, except when it's specified to be controlled by employee. Then the employee will have the option and it will be enabled for them to turn it on or turn it off as they require. There is another new setting that we've added recently, which is this one here for printer default source. So previously the app would present you with all the printers to when you're printing a report. So now you can define, do I want the default printers that are defined against the report style that I'm printing, or from the workstation that I'm connected to, so you don't get the list of all the printers. Now, I just want to go and have a look at something simple like a part tracker. And if I scan a barcode, now this particular part is just my 1032 flat washer. You can see it shows the images of the parts. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time on this just to, I guess, explain some of the UI features that are throughout the app. So, on top of the images, a lot of the screens have these little information icons. Now, if I tap on this information icon, basically what that is the underlying data set for that part. Now, you can see if I scroll to the bottom, we paginate the results because that underlying data set actually has 357 data elements to it. But even though it's only returned the first 20 for performance reasons, I can go and type in to the filter up here. And if I just type in commercial, it's looking through all 357. These fields, some of the fields that are stored on the attribute page of your part master. I've got this particular item set to be a generic brand. It's a steel category, it's a subcategory of washer. So it's really easy to find some of that data. So that sort of functionality is available throughout the app. Now, this particular item I've got stored in lots of warehouses and lots of bins. You can see I've got it stored in the CHI warehouse, the FST warehouse, the receiving warehouse, the shipping warehouse. So I can filter that down using this filter bar here by warehouse. But I've also got a filter button. If I tap on the filter button, I might be interested to show me what bin and what warehouse might have something greater than 1,000 of these in stock. So when I do that, it just returns the only bin that's got more than 1,000. So this functionality is prevalent throughout the app, the filter bar, the filter button, the information icons, and they're all context sensitive. If I now select another little feature in the trackers, if I now select this item, I then see the data set for that underlying item. Now there's only 27 elements in that data set, but one of those elements is telling me that it's in bin number A101. Now I can tap on bin number A101 and I get access to a view bin number button down here. If I tap that, I've effectively drilled down into that bin to see what other parts are stored in that bin. Again, I've now got an information icon for the bin number, which allows me to drill into the data set for that. So it's like a drill down functionality. It doesn't exist on all fields, but there is some fairly handy ones in there like that one. Now we saw the part picture here. I can actually tap on this part picture as well. I can zoom in and move around, etc., etc. If we go down to settings, underneath settings, I can go to part pictures, and I'll just scan a part number that doesn't have a picture, say process, and I can add a photo. There's my image that I just took of a box that's sitting on my desk, and that photo is now uploaded against that part. So that's how easy it is to add those parts. Similarly, I can go to also under settings, configure barcode, and if that was a new part that has come in, I can also enter the part code, and that box has actually got a barcode on it. So if I scan that barcode, it asks me, what's the unit of measure? Is that for an each, or is that a box, or what is it? Let's say if it was a box, what type of barcode is it? It's UPC12, and I can add it, and I've just recorded that barcode against that part. So I've just very quickly added a picture, added a barcode. So it's how easy it is to do that. We often talk about automated workflows, and I've gone into Lot Tracker. It's a really simple form that I guess explains what we mean by automated workflows. So this is a form that has two fields on it. It's looking for a part number and a lot number. Now I'm going to scan a part number and then scan the lot number. And the point is, I didn't have to tab to the next field. I didn't have to tap on the screen. I didn't have to hit OK, because that form was expecting me to scan in a part number and then a lot number. So I scanned the part number in. Because it was a valid part number, it automatically navigated to the next field. So you don't have to tab through or tap on the fields. And that sort of functionality only exists when you're on a supported device. So Honeywell and Zebra supported devices, because we put a lot of logic into the SDK and into the scan engines for those supported devices. And I'm just going to do a purchase order receipt. So if we go into receiving and There's lots of different types of receiving: container receipts, intercompany receipts, mass receipts, job receipts. We're just going to do fairly simple PO receipt. Now I can type a purchase order number in. I can pull up a list of purchase orders. But these three little buttons here are what we call the secondary access menu. I'm going to tap on that, and I'm going to find a PO by part number. So I'm going to scan the part that's just arrived, and it shows me the two open POs that part's on. I want to process this 4288. Now I've already put a couple of receipts against this, so I've already got a pack slip. So we'll just use that existing pack slip. And now I'm going to manually basically process this. So I'm going to select the line. I don't want to do all the quantity because I want to do another receipt a different way in a moment. Now, this is a lot tracked item. If I try save it at this point, it will error, telling me that it requires a lot. Now, not only does it require a lot, but I can tap on next lot, loads the lot attributes. It shows me which fields are required. You can see up here, I've got manufacturing batch and heat number that is trackable, but it's not mandatory, so it's not red. But let's go ahead and put best before the last day of the month and original manufacture the first day, and hit save. Now, while I'm on this screen, if I had this button down here, it's just a PO comment, so that's coming from the purchase order. If there were any, that would turn orange if there was a value. This is the receipt comment, which is editable because we're actually doing a receipt now. And because these are Android devices, if I go into edit it and just tap on the little microphone, I can received in good order. So I don't need to type it in, and you'll notice that button has now gone orange to say that there's a note there. So anywhere that requires notes with the voice side of Android, it works quite well. I can print the tags. I've got this set up to go to my receiving dock for my two-step put away process, but I could also tap on the to location to put it straight into the bin, so it bypassed that two-step process. I can even, there's a configuration setting to do that by default, but I'm going to leave this one as it is. As you can see, there are a few steps in doing that. Now, what I want to show you now is I'm going to go back to the entry screen. And when you think about all the elements that we entered there, we put the PO number, the pack slip, the part number, the quantity, all of that sort of stuff. What I've got is I've got a barcode that has one barcode with all of those elements. Now this is what we call a scan template. I'll show you in a moment where that is, but I'm going to scan one barcode. It's found the PO, it's entered the pack slip, it's put the quantity in, it's created a new lot with one scan, it's entered the best before and the original manufacturer, because all of these things were elements in that one barcode. I can hit save and save again. And instead of having to go through that every step, I was able to do that with one scan. Now that obviously relies on the suppliers having the barcodes on when you receive them, but there's lots of places you can use scan templates. So that's just an example of how that works. Now, before I jump out of PO receipt, and I'll go show you where that's set, but we also have the ability now, which is fairly recent, to add miscellaneous receipts. So if your supplier has sent you something that you didn't actually order, you need to be able to record that. So you can go and record a miscellaneous receipt. Now, where that scan template is set, again, if we go down to settings and into scanner, if you come down to the bottom here, you can see under templates. Now, there's a number of different types of templates. I've got my PO receipt entry tab defined as a fixed template. And basically that means that the barcode has lots of elements, and the elements are separated in my case by a slash. That can be whatever character you like. And then I'm mapping those elements to the fields on my form. So that's basically the logic of a template scan. If I go and have a look at, and there's a number of different forms in here that you can configure template scans on. But if I go to my PO receipt tab, you can see I've defined a different type of template, which for those of you who are familiar with GS1 templates, they use what's called AI, so application indicators, I think it stands for. And they can be in any order in the barcode, but it allows me to map those AIs to the fields where I want them to map to in the application. So that's how those template scans work. So now we're going to do an outbound transaction. We're going to go to material queue. Now, this is assuming that we're picking by order. We've got access to the full material queue, and we'll get into that later if you want to pick by the material queue, by various methods from the material queue. But I'm going to go to outbound order, and I want to, now some of the columns on some of these forms, you'll notice we've got the standard filter field and the filter button, which I can use, but some of these forms also allow you to sort the columns. So I'm going to sort it by sales order number. Now you'll notice this is the standard screen. If you don't have one of the configuration settings turned on, I think only gives you the order number and the customer. There's there's a configuration option to add in the ship via and the ship by dates, which you can then sort by as well. We're going to open this top one here, 5484. Now, this is in my outbound order at the moment. So I am going to select them all to say, yes, I'm assigning them to myself. So it's like a self-assignment scenario. And when I tap the view button, you'll notice my screen moves to my outbound order. Now, here's an example of the basic view. So at the point where the picker is going to go pick them, there's only really some limited information they need. They need to know what's the part, where have they got to get it from, what's the quantity, and what's the unit of measure. So when you're on a device with a smaller screen, this is a pretty good option. Now, if I go to the secondary access menu up here and click on standard view, this is what we're used to seeing, which is what you'll have if you don't enable the basic view setting. It gives you a lot more information. But once you've got that setting configured, you can toggle backwards and forwards between the two. So again, information icon, I can drill into see the underlying data set for that order, but I'm just going to, at this point, start scanning. So we'll scan a barcode. Now, this is a scan incrementer. Now, I've got two items. I'm about to scan the second one, but as soon as I scan it, I've got another configuration setting that it automatically saves the record. So I don't actually have to tap the OK button with that setting turned on. So I'm going to scan the second one, and I don't have enough stock in that item. Do actually have, I'm going to have a problem here with this item because we don't have enough stock. I don't have any open purchase orders to receive any stock on that either. Sorry, that's my mistake. So let's change that quantity to 1 and specify a serial number. Now at this point we can scan the serial numbers, or we can just select them out of the list like I did. So we'll save that item. I might just quickly go and, I don't think I've got any purchase orders. Let me just quickly see if I've got any. Oh, I know what I've got. I've got some, excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to jump into my material queue. I think I've got some put away transactions. So showing something I was going to show later, but let's put some serial numbers away here so that we've got enough stock to complete this order. Yeah, here we go. Let's put these 5 away. Yeah, and serials. Just select the 5 serial numbers that we're putting away. That'll put some items into stock. Sorry about that. Let's go back to my outbound order and go to order that we're in. Now I can complete this order. So we'll go and save that one item, and let's go to the serials. Sorry. Let's see. Let's probably put it into a different bin. Where's my CHI warehouse? I didn't notice what bin I've put that stock into. Sorry. There we go. Go to cereals, browse. No. All right, we're going to outbound order. Not sure why. Here we go. Just selecting the wrong one. Okay. Sorry about that. So now that part is picked. Now we're going to move on to the next one. Now, because I've got that auto flag turned on, I'm going to scan one barcode, but we've ordered 12 and the barcode's actually for a box of 12. So it's actually opens the scan incrementer, returns back. All I've done is one barcode scan and it's taken the item off the list. The next item's a quantity of 50. So we might be sending out 2 boxes of 48 and 2 individual eaches. So I can, in this screen, scan multiple units of measure to make up to my total. Now, as soon as I scan that, it's now prompting me and asking me, am I the person that's going to do the next step? And I'm going to say yes. So this is basically the packing, and it's wanting to know if I want all these items on the same pack ID. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say process. Now, do I want to view the generated pack? I'm going to say yes. Now, at this point, I could just ship it, but I'm actually going to edit it. I'm going to assign it to a truck as a stage, and I'm going to go to actions and stage that item. That's so that I can go and do proof of delivery. Now, proof of delivery is available as a separate app, but it's also included in the core product. So we go down to pod stage and say, okay, what's on my truck? What's staged on my truck for today's date? And it shows one item. Now, the full pod has route optimization in it. There's a pod light that just allows you to do the sign on glass and take the photo. But I can tap on find best route. It's going to go work out best route. I can see the map using the little secondary access menu and show the map and show the path that it's going to take. Then I would tap on this little icon here on the end where it's going to navigate me. That's just using my navigation software. Once I've navigated to that address, once I arrive, it automatically moves to this next screen where I can add a comment, again using my audio recording, which will convert it to text. I can add a picture like we did earlier, and I can also get the customer to sign on the dotted line, and that's push that signature straight back up against the pack ID. If I now, in here, I've delivered the package, so I'm going to mark it as shipped, and the packing slip status is now shipped. Now, if I've got auto invoice turned on, that will also be invoiced. I can toggle the delivered items on and off using that secondary access menu, but I would then just tap on the next icon for the next delivery to navigate me to the next address. So that's the picking, packing, shipping, proof of delivery process. Sorry, I knew I had received enough cereal items, but I hadn't actually put them away, so apologies for that. Anyway, we got there in the end. Now the next one, inventory adjustments, fairly straightforward, but I did want to show you a setting that is available for an ad hoc adjustment. So if we go to inventory and adjust inventory, and I'm going to scan a part number in here, and you'll notice, and if you're already using the app, this is a setting that you need to enable. When you enable it in settings, you can configure reason codes and things like that so you can control it. And now that you can do this at an employee level, you might turn this on for some employees or some teams and not others. But if I was to, so a normal inventory adjustment, I put the quantity in, I put a reason code in, specify the bin that I'm adjusting and hit process. Pretty straightforward. The ad hoc count, it just saves the guys having to do the maths basically. If I wanted to do an ad hoc count and I'm going to put a quantity in, and let's say that we've counted, sorry, tapped the wrong button there, 5,400, you can see it's already defaulted a reason code. So I would typically create a reason code called ad hoc adjustments so that I can track it and effectively audit it. But I'll just get rid of that keypad. And I'm going to say process, and I'm getting a message saying that's 13 different to what was in that location. So do I want to continue? Now I'm going to say yes. Yeah, so that's the ad hoc count feature. Just to quickly show you, if I scan a revision tracked part, so the application has full support for revision tracked parts, and it knows it's a revision tracked part, so it's going to come up and ask me for which revision it is that I'm using. If I scan a attribute tracked part, it's going to pop up and the screen changes to ask me for the attribute set. So this is my t-shirt, so I've got to pick the t-shirt with the right color, the graphic, the size. If you're not using attribute track parts, it then asks for number of pieces. I then get my information icon on the attribute set, etc., etc. I've got something turned on called scan sequencing and set as primary bin. So I'm actually just going to pop down to the settings, and I'm going to go into scan sequencing. There's only a few forms that this is defined on, and we will add more to that list as we go. But what I get presented with is I get presented with all the fields that are available in that form. I can select which fields I'm choosing to scan into. I can define the order in which I'm going to scan them in. And so you'll notice I've chosen an order to warehouse, to bin, and then the UOM code. So if we now go back to inventory and move inventory, and I'm going to scan my part, I'll just hide the keypad, you'll notice that it moves the cursor down to the warehouse code because that's the order that I've chosen to scan that. I scan the barcode, and again, hide that. It's now moved to the bin. I'm going to scan the bin, and then it's asked for the unit of measure, and I'm going to scan the unit of measure. Now, so at no point in those scans did I actually have to navigate the screen, because I can interrupt that if I like, but it's prompting me in which order based on the order that I defined in that setting. Now, the only other thing that I wanted to highlight in this scenario is I've got another configuration setting turned on to update the primary bin. So because I'm moving this, I haven't put any quantity in yet, but when I put the quantity in, because I'm moving it to a bin number that it knows is not the primary bin, then I will, if I've got this configuration option turned on, then it will give me an option to say, I want to set this to be the primary bin. So another one of the settings that are available. If we move on to move lot, so there's a series of move forms that we've introduced in version 5, starting with move lot. Now, another thing that I want to introduce here is on that last screen, I scanned the warehouse and then the bin. Now, if I navigate back down to settings again and go into my scanner settings, scroll to the bottom where we saw our template scans, I can actually define a location template in addition to a template for the page, which is one barcode. I've defined it as fixed, but that combines both the warehouse and the bin number. So now when we navigate to inventory and move lot, now the concept here, the logic of these forms is slightly changed. The logic of the form is I'm standing there with this item, in my case, a lot, that I want to put it in this location where I'm standing. I don't need to know where I've got to get it from because I'm physically standing there with it. So I'm going to scan, let's just get the right barcode here. I'm going to scan a barcode. Oh, sorry, get the right one. Scan a barcode, and with one scan, it's populated both the warehouse code and the bin number. I can actually go into that little information icon and see what else is in that bin. But when I scan a lot, now I've got a couple of different examples here. This first lot that I'm scanning it's not unique across parts. So it presents me with a list of, I've scanned lot 1, but lot 1 for which part? Now, if I go back and scan a different one that's unique by part, but I've got it installed on I've got it sitting in multiple bins, then it'll ask me, which bin have you got it from? And if my lot, if my lot is completely unique, I just scan the lot number that I've got and it's processed the form. So it's moved it to that location, it worked out where it was from, and it's done that move. So yeah, so let's just get rid of that. Now, similarly with move serial, let's move to my next lot of scans. Same concept, we're going to tell the system where we're moving to, but we don't have to worry about where it's coming from because it's based on the logic that we've got these items with us. Now, I can just simply scan, I can scan the serial number, and that serial number is not valid, but I think I've already used it. But I can basically just scan through and just keep scanning serial numbers, and it will, as I scan through them, it will move the serial number from wherever it is located to the location that I've specified here. The next one is a similar concept with move PCIDs. Let's get some other barcodes here, and we're going to scan my barcode and now scan my PCID, and I can just keep scanning the PCID. So that's the way that serial number form works. I've obviously got an issue with those serial numbers that I hadn't received and I was dealing with earlier. But yeah, so it's tracking how many I've scanned into that location. And yeah, the logic is I'm scanning them off the trolley or the pallet or whatever that I'm standing there with. And the next one is move bin to bin. So if we go to move bin to bin, and I'm going to scan a bin. Now I can define, do I want to move all the parts or all the PCIDs or both? In my case, both. I've scanned my from warehouse and bin using my location template. I've got my little information icon there. So I tap on that and it tells me what's in the bin that I'm about to move. That wasn't its primary bin. I can just choose this tick box to move it back to the primary bin, but I'm going to move it to a different bin. And when I go to that, I then get an information box for that one to show me there's nothing, that bin's actually empty. So I can go ahead and do the move. And so it's basically looping through all those transactions. You don't have to do one at a time, which is what you've had to traditionally do. So I've just moved, in my case, I think it was one part with multiple lots, but it's moved all of them in one go to another bin. Now the last one on here that I want to do is cycle counting. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. So you'll notice on the menu here, we've got two menu items, one called cycle count and one called cycle count EXT, which stands for extension. Now I think we will rationalize it down to one very soon, and you'll see why in a moment. But this first one, cycle count, is the traditional cycle count. If we go in there, we're going to select our cycle count or a physical stock take. And the concept was originally built in Epicor is you're going to scan the tag numbers. So you've got to print the tags out in order to scan the barcodes. You scan the tag number and then you enter the quantity. You scan the tag number and enter the quantity. Now that's fairly cumbersome. So if we go into cycle count extension, and why we'll rationalize it back to just one menu item is everything that I could do on that screen I was just in, I can effectively do from this screen under this cycle count tag. I can just scan the tag in there and it will locate the tag. So we don't need both. We only put that original one in because historically that was the way it always worked. Now I can get a list of all the tags by just tapping the list there. But just to explain the way this screen works, This is like a filter screen. So you'll notice at the bottom here, it's loading basically the first 3 tags in the list. But the concept of this form is it's going to find the tag for us. So when you think about, for example, a full stock take, most people want to be able to stock take by bin by part. So with that in mind, if I was to go to the bin number and I'm telling the system I'm scanning a bin number, let me just get to, so I'm scanning a bin number. Now I'm telling the system I'm scanning all of the parts in that bin. So I'm going to scan the first part. And you'll notice at the bottom here, it's found 1 record. So it's found the tag for me. So I'm going to select the entry. I'm going to put the quantity in and save it. Now I don't have to do anything other than scan the next part because my scan type is specified as part number. I'm working through the parts in that bin. Okay. Now I'm going to select that one and I'm going to enter my quantity and I'm going to save it and I move on to the next item in the bin. All right. And let's put a quantity, I found 1 record. Let's open it. Let's put the quantity in and save it. Now, so then I would go back and change the part number and work through the parts for the second bin. If those parts were lot tracked, serial tracked, attribute tracked, then I can effectively lock the bin number, the part number, and say, I'm now working through all the lots for that part until I get to the point where I say, I'm moving on to the next part and I'm going to move through all the lots for it. So it's a lot more logical. And as I said, what it's doing behind the scenes is it's finding the tag for you rather than you relying on knowing the tag or scanning the barcode for the tag. Now, in the case where I'm going to put, because this is a cycle count, I can only count certain parts. But if I move it to a bin and hide that keyboard where nothing exists, in the standard Epicor processes, you had to, certainly when you're doing a full physical, you had to specify how many blank tags you wanted to generate. In this case now, if I've found that stock in a different bin where the system doesn't know it was there, it gives me a 0 results found. I can just tap on the generate tags and it's an on-demand, give me a new tag, rather than knowing that I need 10 or 20 or 100 extra blank tags. It's pre-populated the information with the information from the previous screen, the bin number and the part number, and I can enter the quantity. So that's cycle counting. That's our extended version, which, as I said, we will probably soon remove that, the first one, because you can do everything you need to in the second one, but a lot more streamlined and simplified process for stock taking. We're going to go and issue some material. So we go down to issue return, issues and returns and issue material. Now I can scan a barcode, I can type in my job number, I can look it up in the list, and I can navigate through and see the details of this job, tap on the assembly button, go into assembly 0, see the list of materials, go grab the material, and I'm going to issue, I don't know, maybe five of these. Now, this is a lot number, so it won't let me move any further forward until I specify the lot number. So let's grab lot 10 and save. So that's one way to issue materials. The second way to issue materials being issue material by ID. If I go back to the menu and go issue material by ID, if I've got a barcode, perhaps printed on my job traveller report that has the job, the assembly and the material number, I can simply scan those 3 elements of that barcode and navigate straight to that page. And let's issue another 10 of those. Again, I've got lot number, I've got to specify. So it's 2 slightly different ways for issuing materials. Now we're going to go to labor to start production. Now, same scenario here. I can manually fill the fields in. I've got a barcode with my job, my assembly, and my operation number on it, and I want to start on it. It's asking me, do I want to view my started activities? And you'll notice when we logged on originally, it said I was already logged on to another job. I've now logged on to this job 2477. So go away and complete that work, and when I come back to end it, at this point I can call up any of the drawings that I might have attached to the job. I can just report activity, or I can end the activity. So I'm going to complete this and say we're going to complete that operation. We're going to end that activity, and I don't want to view the. I could have said yes because I actually want to now log on to. So that's the start production where the operation was a time and quantity operation. So I started the operation and then I had to log off the operation. Another configuration setting allows me to, when I go to start production, I scan my next operation and start it. Now this operation, as I've got here in the slide, is a quantity only operation. So it didn't put it onto the queue and I then had to go and end it. It took me straight to the end activity screen and completed the quantity for me because I just want to record the quantity. So we can complete that activity. So it just changes the behavior of the app and tries to streamline the process a little bit more. So we're going to say yes. And now that's done. So I can then go along and complete. Let's go to receiving. And let's do a job receipt to inventory for our 2477 job. And for our 0 assembly, and I think I've completed all 10, I'm not sure. We'll get a message if we haven't. That's put that item into inventory. So that's a fairly simple job process of issuing materials, and obviously you saw all the other options on the menus for sub-assemblies and returns and starting different types, starting production and starting rework and starting setup and all that sort of stuff. So all of that sort of functionality is available. Here's the material queue. Here's all the transactions in Epicor where it's requesting something has to happen. Now, you'll notice at the top here that we've got a default query. All I can do on the default query is I can change the sort order. So I've got mine set from oldest to newest. So you can see by the transaction numbers. But what I was going to do is there's an infinite amount of power in how you sort and filter this. So I was going to go into, I click on these 3 buttons and go to Material Query Editor. I'm actually going to create a new query called priorities. Now, at this point, I could specify this as a company level query, and if I'm not going to do that for this example, and if I did, then I could make that my default query as opposed to the default one that I just showed you that you can only change the sort order of. So I'm going to save it and then I'm going to go and edit it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some filters in. So I'm going to add a new filter. I want to do it a little bit complex. So I'm going to put an open bracket and I'm going to specify a need by date. Now, a couple of things on these screens. So so essentially I'm building a where clause to filter my material queue. So the list that you saw in the column list is just the more common ones. I can tick the custom column and it basically gives me access to create any column in the material queue table I can use as a filter. Now that includes any UD fields that you add to the material queue table. So there's really no restriction on how complex you can get with this. And so I'm going to say is equal to today's date. Now I'm also going to show this in the form because I want this to be dynamic. So I'm going to tick this button here. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go and add another filter. This time it's going to be the close bracket and I'm going to make it an or, and I'm going to say or the priority equals 1. And I'm also going to show that in the form. So when you think about what I've done there is I'm filtering it to give me the list of anything that is needed by today or has a priority 1. I'm going to save that. But now I'm going to add another filter where I'm going to say, put it outside of that and say, and my tran type is, and I'm going to say, and we're going to put in here MFG, and where's my percent sign? Percent. I'm also going to show that in the form. We save that, return. I can put sort orders on all that sort of stuff as well. And I'm going to close that. So now here's my default query, but if I go to select material query, here's my priorities entry. So here's all the items that are in my queue that are either a need by today, a priority one, and are all manufacturing related transactions. Now I could come in, and once this list is empty, I could change this to a priority 2, which is why I put these 3 fields to show in form and be dynamic. I might want to change it to say, once that list was empty, show me all of my WIP transactions. I've got 2 of them that are WIP transactions. So I can build as many of these material queries as I like. I could have one for the put away transactions, or the manufacturing transactions, or something that I might call bills list, and I put specific types of transactions on bills. Now what that's actually done in the background, and actually before I do, if I just go to, and you saw this one earlier, if I go to this one, I use this to find those serial tracked items that I hadn't put away. I can say, okay, I want to deal with everything in the material queue that relates to this part. You can create as many of these as you like, but what it's done behind the scenes is I can go down to material, custom material queries, and it's actually dynamically created a menu item for it. And if I go to favorites and into my favorite setup and down to that section, it's actually, I can add it to my home screen. And so here's that query that I just created just here. As of version 5, BPM forms are now supported. I'm going to go back to my outbound order, and I'm going to grab order 83. I just got one simple item on here, and I'm going to view it, and I'm going to pick that item, and I'm going to pack it, and I want to view the pack. Now, this particular sales order, and this was just an example that we had from a customer fairly recently, I am going to go to the pack out tab. I've got, and I'm going to add, I've got a non-quantity bearing item on the order. So I created a part called ZZZ. Now, particular customer we built this for was for their freight charges. But the problem was their freight charges kept changing. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say I want to include one of these freight charges and save it. But I've now got a BPM form that pops up and says to me, because I just put the item, the ZZZ item, on my sales order for $1, because I don't know how much we're going to charge them. I'm going to come in here and say, put $25 for the shipping costs for this item, and okay. And what that's done is, so it's given me the ability to create effectively a custom form to collect additional data. But what I've done with that additional data is I've gone back and updated the price of that line, that non-quantity bearing item, on the sales order, so that when the invoice gets generated, it pulls through the $25 and not the original, I think, $1 that I put on the sales order. So it's just a good example. And I think BPM forms is something that creates a lot of flexibility and a lot of power, and really is only limited to your imagination. While we're in here, just to quickly show you this little, and I know we're just about, or we're actually a minute over time, but click on this little information here. I can go into the BPM call context option here, and it will show me if I want to put some BPMs on a form, I can include these settings so that BPM's only triggered if the process is triggered from the EKW app, and more specifically, only triggered from this menu item. So all the forms have that now. That's really all I wanted to show. Just had a couple of slides about, whilst the app is available from our download site, from the Play Store, you can also get access to the APKs from our download site, and they're available there for a period of time before they're available on the Google Play Store. And for those of you who are customers, if you don't have access to our Biscuit portal, please reach out to Epicor support and ask for access. And this gives you visibility of your license. You can tag your devices. You can manage your licenses on each of the devices.